Good evening, everyone. No? Ang lesson natin ngayong gabi, no, ay specifically tungkol sa Pastor Staff Parish Relations Committee. Na alam natin na ito yung committee na nag-supervise ng trabaho ng local pastor. So, parang two birds with one stone. In the same breath, ngayong gabi, makikita natin ano ang responsibilidad at trabaho ng local pastor at paano i-assess ito sa pamamagitan ng SPPRC committee. Okay, ito ay ginawa ng isang assistant to the bishop, sa Reverend Timothy J. Russell. Okay, next slide. Who is a member of the Staff Pastor Parish Relations Committee? 5 to 9 professing members of a local church, and at least one member shall be a young adult and one member may be a youth. So, dalawa na yun, doon kaagad. In addition, the lay leader and the lay member of the annual conference. So, 4 na yun. And they organized, the PSPRC is organized into 3 classes. No, the chair and members are nominated by the Committee on Lay Leadership and elected by the Charge Conference. Members of the pastors or staff member family are ineligible. Hindi pwedeng mag-member ang kapamilya ng pastor o staff doon sa PSPRC. And only one person from the same household may serve. Hindi dapat magkakapamilya ang nagsiserve sa PSPRC. And each church on a church must have representation. Okay, next slide. The duties of the Committee on Staff Pastor Parish Relations Committee. Okay, next. 1. To encourage, strengthen, nurture, support, and respect the pastors and the staff and their family. Pag sinasabi natin yung pastor, alam naman natin yung kung dalawang pastor, yung lead pastor or administrative pastor, and the other is the associate pastor or mission pastor. Yung staff naman, pwedeng diakonisa, pwedeng church secretary, pwedeng music director, yan. They are considered staff. Okay? Next slide. To promote unity in the churches. Okay? Tinitingnan ng PSPRC ang unity ng church. Dapat hindi na di-divide ito dahil sa mga manggagawa ng iglesia. Okay? Next. To confer with and counsel the pastors and staff on matters pertaining to the effectiveness of the ministry, relationship with the congregation, conditions that may impede the effectiveness of ministry, and to interpret the nature and function of the ministry. So, tinitingnan niya ito, yung effectiveness ng ministry ng pastor at ng staff, yung diakonisa, yung mga ibang nagsiserve, no? Like the music director, no? And look at conditions that may impede the effectiveness. Yung ano yung nakakasagabal ng pagiging effective ng ministry. Of course, to interpret the nature and function of the ministry. Kadalasan, ini-interpret nila ano ba talaga ang trabaho ng mga manggagawa ng iglesia. Next. Next slide. To confer with, consult, and counsel the pastors on matters pertaining to priorities in the use of gifts, skills, and time, and priorities for the demands and effectiveness of the ministry of the congregation. Tinitingnan nila yung kung ano ang mga gifts ng mga pastor, mga staff, no? At ikonsulto sila and counsel, yung advisean sila kung ano ang magiging priority na demand ng mission and ministry ng kongregasyon. Ano ba yung mga talagang pangangailangan at yung mga kailangan gawin ng misyon at ministeryo ng iglesia, yung PSPRC, ito ang magka-counsel o mag-a-advise sa mga pastor at staff patungkol sa mga ito. Next is prioritizing the work of ministry, okay? Helping your church reach its fullest potential. Ibig sabihin, yung mga manggagawa ng iglesia ay siyang may trabaho na dapat ma-reach ng kongregasyon ang fullest na potential niya o kaya niyang gawin. Okay, next slide. Ministry does not look the same in every church and every generation. Alam naman natin yon. Iba ang mga priorities kung small church, iba rin pag large church, iba pag barrio church, iba pag town church, iba pag mission church, ganyan. Next slide. The role of the pastor includes preaching, teaching, administration, pastoral care, overseeing staff, and much more. No pastor will excel in every area of ministry, and it would be unrealistic to expect otherwise. Also, the needs of the local church will vary from place to place, and over time, the results of what the church needs in a pastor will vary. It is helpful then to establish some goals for prioritizing the work of ministry. Dahil iba-iba ang pangangailangan ng ministeryo ng bawat iglesia, yung pastor ay dapat nakikita niya ito at nag-a-adjust ng kanyang trabaho according to the need of the congregation. Pero ang sinasabi niya rito, no pastor will excel in every area. Hindi lahat ng pastor ay magaling sa bawat area ng ministry. Kaya tinitingnan ano yung mga gifts ng pastor na makakatulong sa iglesia kung saan siya nakadestino. Next slide. Okay, the goals for prioritizing the work of ministry are simple. Ito yung mga goals kung paano i-prioritize ang ministry. One, improve communication between the pastor and SPPRC. Dapat, no, dahil yung ang nagsusupervise ng trabaho ng pastor sa loob ng local church ay SPPRC, dapat continuous yung communications nila. Okay? Number two, clarify the expectations of the SPPRC with regard to the ministry of the pastor based on the mission of the church. So yung SPPRC, ang magsasabi dun sa pastor, ito po ang mga kailangan po ng congregation po natin. Lalo na kung bago yung pastor dun sa congregation, syempre, kailangan i-spell out ng SPPRC ano ba talaga yung mga priorities and expectations, no, sa mga pastor at manggagawa. Number three, come to a basic agreement on the areas of ministry which will be priorities for the pastoral leadership. Okay? Sasabihin sa pastor, ano ba yung mga priority areas na kailangan ng atensyon. Okay? Number four, next. Next slide. The basic tasks of pastoral ministry are grouped into 10 major areas. Ito yung sinasabi ko na ang bawat pastor, titingnan niya yung 10 major areas. Now, it is important for the pastor and the SPPRC to explore these areas and determine a priority of importance for them. It is suggested that the SPPRC spend time working together to establish this order of priorities. So, isa sa mga trabaho ng SPPRC ay to sit down with the pastor at tingnan ko na yung priorities dito sa 10 major areas. 10 major areas ng trabaho, no, ng pastor, ipa-prioritize kasama ang SPPRC. Next slide. Oh, okay. So lalagyan ng marka yung kung top priority, very important and must be done well. T, top priority, or I, important, needs of attention from the pastor. And 3, low priority, or L. Lagyan natin ng T, I, or L. Sige, next slide. Rules for setting these priorities. No more than 3 may receive the ranking of 1 or top priority. Okay? Yung T. And no more than 3 may receive a ranking of 2 or important priority. Ibig sabihin, tatlo. Yung 4, yun na yung low priority. Okay? Next. Okay na. Ito na yung mga ministry area. 1, spiritual preparation. Personal prayer, Bible study, spiritual retreat, reading for spiritual growth, receiving spiritual direction, and self-care. Isa yan sa importante sa pastor. Meron siyang dapat spiritual preparation para strong siya spiritually. Okay? Next priority area. Worship leadership. Ayan. Paglilid ng pastor sa worship. Preaching, conducting worship, organizing and planning worship service, creating inspiring worship, attention to issues such as the pace and energy of the worship service, assisting persons to participate in worship, and administration of the sacraments. Kung ako yan, lalagyan ko ng T, top priority yan palagi. No? Yung pag-preach at yung worship, no, life of the congregation should receive top priority. Okay, next. Administration. Ito. Administration is working with committees, complete required paperwork, reviewing and revising policies and procedures, organizing the church, intentional day-to-day involvement, and financial and facility operation of the church, etc. Ito naman yung office work ng pastor. Sa akin, pwedeng important. Yan. Important. Looking at the administrative work of the pastor. Next slide. Discipleship. Ito yung pagdidisipulo ni pastor, teaching, leading Bible studies, serving as spiritual director, encouraging those in the church to grow in their faith, challenging people to tithe, expanding the number of small groups and or Sunday school classes. Lalagyan ko yan ng T, top priority. Okay? So the pastor is in charge of discipleship. Okay, the next slide is outreach, involvement in missions, leading the church to help those in need, participating in local and foreign mission trips, challenging the church to take seriously the needs of the homeless, hungry, lower income persons, and those in poverty or prison. Ako, bibigyan ko yan ng I, important. Okay, dalawa ng important, dalawa ng top priority. Okay, next slide. Evangelism. It spends time with people who are not yet participating in the life of the church, challenges the church to reach those not active in a church, clearly presents the salvation message of Jesus to others, trains and equips people in the church to share their faith with others. Sa akin, lalagyan ko yan ng I, or important. No? Yan. Ito yung evangelism natin, yung pag-reach out natin sa tao to receive Jesus Christ and become disciples. And then, ito, pastoral care, hospital and home visitations, counseling, caring ministry, funerals, contacting shut-ins. Ito yung pastoral care ng pastor, pagbibisita, no, yung counseling. Sa akin, lalagyan ko yan ng T, top priority. So ako, nakakuha na ka ng 3 T at 3 I, yung important. Next slide. To leadership. leading the church into God's vision for it, identifying, equipping, and developing emerging laity leaders, providing a strong sense of direction for the ministry of the church, hands-on management of staff, casting vision, etc. That is very important, leadership of the pastor for the congregation to be able to fulfill its vision. Okay, next. And then denominational involvement. No? Ito yung pag-serve ng pastor sa mga committee ng denominasyon, sa annual conference, sa district, mentoring candidates for ministry, attending denominational meetings, expressing leadership beyond the local church. No? Parang representation ni pastor yan. Okay. No? Sa akin, low priority yan. Next. Other. Some churches have special or unique expressions of ministry that may create a priority for the pastor. This could be a preschool, no, in which the pastor is expected to participate in supervision of staff and providing weekly chapel experience, a large ministry to homeless persons in which the pastor is expected to serve, etc. Okay, so those are not priority, but those are also important work of the pastor. Okay, we've got that part covered. We have helped the pastor prioritize ministry. So what's next? Okay. To provide evaluation at least annually for the use of the pastor and staff in an ongoing effective ministry and for identifying continuing educational needs and plans. Okay? So, i-evaluate ngayon yung effectiveness ng pastor kasi titingnan kung may mga kailangan siyang training na parang matutunan pa ni pastor yung ibang mga trabaho dun sa kongregasyon ng iglesia. Next. Ministry assessment. Ito yung very important part, no? Ina-assess ng PSPRC kung ano effectiveness ni pastor. The ministry assessment and development tool is an instrument designed to accomplish two goals. Ito yung two goals for assessment. One, provide a thoughtful and fair process for assessment of pastoral effectiveness that fosters dialogue and understanding. Upang yung pastor, no, ay malalaman niya, no, na magkakaroon ng venue for dialogue, no, and understanding between the PSPRC and the pastor. Pangalawa, serve as a vehicle for identifying areas in which effectiveness can be improved and special steps that will help the pastor and church to be more fruitful. Titingnan nila sa assessment, matikinan ni pastor, no, kung saan pa siya pwedeng mag-improve ng kanyang effectiveness. At yung congregation din, kung paano ma-meet then yung mga obligations ng congregation to improve the ministry. Okay? Next. Yan yung goals. Okay. Directions. Step 1. The assessment document is distributed to committee members for their personal reflection. So mayroong assessment document, bigyan ng bawat membro ng PSPRC for personal reflection. Okay? Next. Yung step 2, the committee members bring completed assessment documents to a meeting where a consensus document will be completed outside the pastor's presence. Ngayon, magmi-meet yung PSPRC na hindi kasama si pastor at mag-compare notes sila doon sa individual assessment nila doon sa trabaho ni pastor. So, and then they will come to a consensus. Saan ba si pastor magaling? Saan si pastor hindi gaanong magaling? Saan si pastor hindi magaling? Anong mga kailangan no, na ma-develop, no, ni pastor at ng staff para mas mabuti ang magiging effective ang ministry nila. Okay? Nandun yon. Then, pupunta tayo sa step 3. Next slide. The pastor and committee members will compare the pastor's self-assessment and the committee's consensus. Then the development plan will be created. Magko-compare ngayon yung self-assessment ni pastor sa sarili niya at yung assessment ng SPPRC, yung consensus nila. And then titingnan nila kung ano ang pwedeng gawing plano. Okay, dito na actually makikita, no, kung magkakatugma ba o hindi gaanong magtutugma. No? Okay, next. Step 4, a copy of the committee consensus document, the pastor's self-assessment, and the development action plan is mailed to the district office. Okay? So, ibibigay ngayon sa opisina ni DS yung assessment ng PSPRC at ano yung self-assessment ni pastor sa sarili niya at yung napagkasunduan nila, no, na development action plan, no, na pwedeng dapat mailipat si pastor o hindi mailipat si pastor. Ganyan, yun yung development action plan. Okay, next. There are 3 possible ratings, no, na ibibigay sa pastor. 1, very effective. The pastor is highly effective in this area compared to the expectations of the church. The pastor functions at a very high level in this area and is highly competent. Ayan. Pangalawa, effective. The pastor is effective and fulfills the expectations of the church. The pastor functions well in this area and is competent. Alam natin na 10 yun, yung priority areas, 10 yun. Lagyan yan ng very effective, or it can be not fully effective. The pastor is not fully effective and does not fulfill the expectations of the church. The pastor does not demonstrate consistent competence in this area. So, ito yung 3 na possible ratings ng pastor. Siyempre, alam natin kung number 1 or number 2 mariritin yung pastor. Pero yung number 3, kung hindi siya effective, siyempre, ang recommendation, ililipat siya. Okay, next. The focus of this process is assessment. The process is not about personality, but effectiveness and developing a plan to be helpful to the pastoral leadership and the church. The goal is to agree upon a focused and shared ministry with a mutual covenant to glorify God in every way. Para makita kang ikaluluwalhati ng Diyos dun sa ministeryo ni pastor at yung ministeryo ng congregation, ito ay ginagawa ng assessment. Okay, it's not about personality. It's about effectiveness. Okay, next slide. 10 areas to assess. Okay, ito yun, 10 areas to assess. Number 1, spiritual formation and self-care. Tinitingnan nila yung evidences of the pastor to personal prayer, Bible study, and reading for spiritual growth. Si pastor ba ay nag-grow din siya spiritually? Does he observe a Sabbath for personal renewal apart from time with family? Is the pastor open to receiving spiritual direction from others? And then does he honor and model healthy lifestyle, spiritual, physical, and emotional, for strengthening individual and family health? Okay, so yung spirituality and self-care ng pastor. Number 1 area to assess. Effective siya ba dyan? Very effective, or barely effective, or not effective? Next, Number two, worship leadership. Is the pastor an effective preacher and worship leader? Does he organize and plan worship services with skill and care? Does he create an inspiring worship time and gives attention to issues such as space and energy of the service? Does the pastor include other persons by encouraging participation in liturgy? So, worship leadership is important to assess in a pastor's ministry. Next, administration. Does the pastor work well with committees, complete required paperwork in a timely manner, knowledgeable in policies and procedures, sinasabi ng Book of Discipline, demonstrate intentional involvement in the financial and facilities operation of the church? Tinitingnan ba ni pastor yung status ng finances ng church? Okay, so that's administration. Number four, next, discipleship. Does the pastor use time well and appropriately? Is the pastor an engaging teacher and Bible study leader? Does the pastor encourage people to grow in their faith and challenges people to tithe? Does the pastor demonstrate competence in basic theology and Bible studies? Does the pastor demonstrate a comprehensive spiritual knowledge needed to perform the primary task of ministry? Maalam ba si pastor at nagdidisipulo ba talaga siya? Okay? We go to number 5 next. Next slide. Okay, mission. Okay, how does the pastor live out the mission and values of the UMC in word and deed? Does the pastor lead the church to help those in need by participating in local and or foreign missions? Does the pastor challenge the church to take seriously the needs of the least, the last, and the lost, yung mga walang-wala? Does the pastor lead the congregation in the fulfillment of its mission through full and faithful payment of all apportioned ministerial support, administrative, and benevolent funds? No? Ito ba si pastor, ni-encourage niya yung pagbibigay ng mga connectional obligations. Okay, number 6, next. Next slide. Evangelism. Does the pastor spend time with people who are not yet participating in the life of the church? Does the pastor lead people in discipleship and evangelistic outreach that they might come to know Christ and follow him? Does the pastor train and equip people in the church to share their faith with others? Okay, does the pastor lead in the evangelistic efforts of the church? Okay, next. Number 7, pastoral care. Is the pastor attentive to the ministries of hospital and home visitation, counseling, caring ministry, funerals, conducting shut-ins? The pastor enable and partners with the laity in the caring ministry of the church. Pastor ba ay magaling na counselor? Ayan. At does he really care about the life of members, no? Especially yung mga hindi na nakakarating sa church? Then number 8, leadership. Does the pastor lead the church into God's vision for it by identifying, equipping, and developing emerging lay leadership? Ayan, nagde-develop ba siya ng mga leader? Does he demonstrate organizational skills, delegates appropriately, and understands his role and his function with the church? Okay, ito importante. Does the pastor honor confidentiality? And then, does he relate well to staff, manages conflict in a healthy manner, and punctual and prepared for assignments? So, si pastor ba ay prompt and punctual? Okay. Next, number 9. Denominational and ecumenical involvement. Does the pastor serve on district and conference committees? Does he mentor candidates to the ministry? Nagre-recruit ba siya ng mga magpapastor? Does he attend district and conference meetings? And does he participate in community, ecumenical, and interreligious concerns? Maganda ba ang kanyang attitude sa mga ibang relihiyon? Okay? Number 10, next, team building and equipping. Does the pastor effectively build teams to multiply ministry? Does he share credit for successes? Does he seek out new people to be in ministry? Does the pastor cast vision for positive change? And is the pastor able to build consensus for a new idea and implement it? Okay. And does the pastor believe the best days of the church are ahead? No, gumaganda ba ang lagay at buhay ng iglesia? Okay. Next slide. No, and then the development action plan. Pagkatapos na nag-assess ang mga membro at nag-self-assessment yung pastor, mag-develop sila to work with the pastor to improve on areas where improvement is needed. Halimbawa, yung pagdami ng membro, palaging ini-improve yan. At yung pagtaas o ng pagbibigay ng mga membro, yung budget is always desirable. Dapat mag-grow ang church in giving every year. Okay? Next slide. A development action plan is a covenant between the pastor and the SPPRC designed to benefit the church. Its purpose is to improve the effectiveness of the pastor and in turn, the overall ministry of the church. Para sa ikabubuti ng iglesia at kapuluwalhati ng Diyos, dapat mag-improve yung development plan. Okay? O ma-develop. Next, covenant ito. Okay, back to the duties of the SPPRC. Next slide. To communicate and interpret to the congregation the nature and function of ministry in the United Methodist Church regarding open itinerancy, the preparation of the ordained ministry, and the ministerial education fund. Ito, tinitingnan talaga yan, yung pag-recruit ng mga pastor at yung pag-prepare sa kanila, bigyan ng scholarship, pag mag-aral sa seminaryo, at kaya ito yung ministerial education fund. Okay, next slide. To develop and approve written job descriptions and titles for associate pastors and other members in cooperation with the senior pastor. The term associate pastor is used as a general term to indicate any pastoral appointment in the local church other than the pastor in charge, no? So dapat mayroong specific, job description para sa associate pastors that reflect the job descriptions and expectations. Ito ba ay mission pastor ba siya, visitation pastor ba siya, etc. Okay? Next. Number 8, to consult with the pastor and staff concerning continuing education and spiritual renewal, to arrange with the church council for the necessary time and financial assistance for the attendance of the pastor and staff at such continuing education and spiritual renewal events as may serve their professional spiritual growth, and to encourage staff members to seek professional certification in their fields of specialization. Alam natin na may mga seminars na ino-organize, halimbawa yung Elders Gate conference, yan, pinapa-attend ang mga manggagawa ng iglesia, kasi continuing education ang may ito. Okay, kung sa district, meron din yan, no? So, kuminsan may mga kagaya ng Hagay, o yung Emmaus Walk, o yung mga seminars na pwedeng ipadala yung pastor para sa kanyang ikabubuti and improvement. Ganun din sa mga staff. Yung mga diakonisa, mayroong mga kunting continuing education, ano rin sila, activities sila. And so the church, the SPPRC is the one that recommends, okay, and enable. And then number 9, to enlist, interview, evaluate, review, and recommend annually to the church conference lay preachers and persons for candidacy for ordained ministry, and to enlist and refer to General Board of Global Ministries persons for candidacy for missionary service. Alam natin na yung local church, yung PSPRC, kung mayroong gustong magdiakonisa, gustong magpastor, o sila mismo magre-recruit ng mga lay preachers, tapos i-recommend sila sa church conference. So these people will go into the process of becoming lay ministers or lay servants, and also ordained ministers, local pastors. Okay. Neither the pastor nor any member of the committee shall be present during the consideration of a candidacy application or renewal for a member of their immediate family. Okay? So, yung processing mga recruitment, dapat wala yung immediate family ng mga tao na ma-recruit into ministry. No? Number 10, to interpret preparation for ordained ministry and the Ministerial Education Fund to the congregation. So yung PSPRC, siya magsasabi na ito yung mga membro natin na i-recruit natin, nire-recommend natin na magpastor, magdiakonisa, mag-lay minister. No? At ang pangangailangan ng pondo para support sa kanila. Okay? Next slide. Number 11, to confer with the pastor and other appointed member, the staff, if it should become evident that the best interest of the church and the pastor will be served by a change of pastors. Yung PSPRC, ito, napaka-importanting trabaho niya. Siya ang magsasabi doon sa pastor o diakonisa o staff kung kailangan na silang palitan. Yun. Yung bang a change of appointments. The committee shall cooperate with the pastor, the DS, and the bishop in securing clergy leadership. Yung mag-consult ng PSPRC yung kung sino ang ipapalit. And its relationship to the DS and the bishop shall be advisory only. So advisory lang ang PSPRC, hindi sila magsasabi ng pinal, no? Kundi sila magsasabi na kailangan po namin ng pagpapalit ng pastor, kailangan namin ng may nakukurso na dahan-dahan namin ipalit sa tingin namin, ganyan. But this will be advisory or recommendation lang ito sa DS at sa bishop. Okay? Okay, the PPRC role in appointment making, yun yung evaluation. The annual evaluation should be done due on December 1st, and then the charge profile due December 1st, yung pangangailangan ng congregation yan. And then the consultation will be between January to March. And the introductory visit will be from April to May. Hindi natin ginagawa yung introductory visit kasi nalalaman na kaagad ng kongregasyon na may papalit pala, ito pala ang pwedeng ipapalit sa atin. Pero sa Amerika, ginagawa yan kasi titingnan nung ililipat na pastor kung magugustuhan niya yung nire-recommend para sa kanya. But the consultation should be done. No, sa atin, the consultation is done. It should be done at least 1 month before the annual conference session. Okay? Next. Appointment core values. Okay, ito yung mga core values na dapat tinitingnan sa appointment. One, the church is the body of Christ. yung titingnan dapat yung congregation, no? The work we are doing is the work of God. Okay? At trabaho, yung pag-appoint ng pastor, pagpapalit ng pastor, trabaho ng Diyos yan. And then number 3, don't reward mediocrity. Ibig sabihin, kung hindi na effective yung ministry situation, don't reward it, no? Okay? Ibig sabihin, kung kailangan magpalit, dapat magpalit. And the needs of the local church are priority. Marami kasi yung hindi nalilipat na pastor kasi ang nagiging priority yung pamilya ni pastor, anak ni pastor, yung kailangan ni pastor, no? But here, ang sinabi niya, no, the need of the local church should be priority. Remember that pastors are servants. Okay? Next slide. The only thing worse than having no pastor is having the wrong pastor. So dapat hindi nagkakaroon ng sitwasyon na mali yung pastor na ilalagay sa isang local church. It's worse. It's worse than having no pastor. Mabuti pa yung walang pastor kaysa mabigyan ng maling pastor. Okay, number 6, consultation is very important. Consultation means attempting to gain all information vital to making a correct decision. Dapat lahat ng mga factors ma-consider. No? Pati rin yung kalalagayan ng pastor at ang kanyang pamilya. Okay? Next slide. Okay, ito yung philosophy of appointment making. All that we do and consider will be based in prayer. Dapat pinapalangan lahat. And then church profiles and clergy profiles will be used to matching the needs of the church with the abilities of the clergy. And make sure your profile is accurate. And then long-term appointments are key to healthy congregations. Ang ganda to ng pakinggan, no? Mas maganda ang mahabang appointment. No? Sa akin, at least 3 years, no? Pinaka-minimum yung 3 years, hindi yung lipat ng pastor. Okay? And then we will work towards moving only those clergy who want to move or must move due to the request of the church. Okay? Yung paglilipat ay dahan-dahan. Okay? And then interim pastors will be used to address patterns of dysfunction on the part of a local congregation. May mga emergency situations na kailangan talaga maglagay ng interim pastor. Halimbawa, yung pastor ng in charge ay nagkasakit ng seryoso o na COVID, kailangan ng interim pastor. And then, ineffectiveness on the part of a clergy person will be dealt with by remedial action or suspension. No? Ito yung ineffectiveness. No? Pwedeng lagyan ng, pwedeng suspension, or pwedeng, yun, ito na yung kinukonsider kung minsan, no, na yung remedial action. Pag-aralin pa ulit kung kailangan, o counseling, ganyan. O rehab, kung kailangan. Okay? Next slide. Okay, back to the duties of the SPPRC. Next. 12. To recommend to the church council after consultation with the pastor, the professional and other staff positions, whether employee or contract, needed to carry out the work of the church or charge. The committee and the pastor shall recommend to the church council a written statement of policy and procedures regarding the process of hiring, contracting, evaluating, retiring, promoting, dismissing staff personnel who are not subject to episcopal appointment as ordained clergy. Yung mga hindi subject to episcopal appointment ay lalagyan ng mga policies and procedures regarding their hiring, promoting, retiring, and dismissing. Okay? So, trabaho yun ng SPPRC. Okay, next. Until such a policy has been adopted, the committee and the pastor shall have the authority, hire, contract, evaluate, promote, retire, and dismiss non-appointed personnel. Okay? Ito, the committee shall further recommend to the church council a provision for adequate health and life insurance, okay, severance pay for all lay employees. Okay? Next slide. In addition, the committee shall recommend that the church council provide effective on and after January 2006, 100 vested pension benefits. Ito yung pension benefits for the pastors. Meron tayong policy tungkol dyan. Okay, next slide. Number 13, to recommend to the church conference when the size of the employed staff of the church makes it desirable establishment of a personnel committee. Kung marami masyado ng empleyado, hindi na yung SPPRC, gagawa na ng personnel committee. And number 14, to educate the church community on the value of diversity of selection in clergy and lay staff and develop a commitment to the same. Kung dalawang pastor nyo, dapat hindi magkapareho ng edad kasi siyempre, alam natin yun, may tendency na may competition. Dapat matanda yung isa, bata yung isa, yun, mas junior, no? Ganon. So also in that, yung ethnicity, importante din. At walang dapat discrimination sa mga babaeng pastor. At pati na rin, pati sa pagpili ng mga diakonisa. Next slide, please. Members of the SPPRC shall keep themselves informed of personal matters in relationship. Committee members should make themselves available for educational and training opportunities provided by the conference, the district, and other arenas that will enable them to be effective in their work. Ibig sabihin, nagtitraining din dapat ang SPPRC para alam nila yung trabaho nila. Okay, next. To consult on matters pertaining pulpit supply, proposals for compensation, travel expense, vacation, health and life insurance, pension, and housing. Ito, lahat ito, trabaho talaga. No? And reporting budget items to the finance committee. Very important yan, pero alam naman natin na may mga guidance na galing sa conference kung tungkol sa benefits at sweldo ng mga manggagawa. Okay? Next slide. The parsonage, okay, is to be mutually respected by the pastor's family as the property of the church and by the church as a place of privacy for the pastor. The chairperson of the SPPRC, the chairperson of the board of trustees, and the pastor shall make an annual review of the church-owned parsonage to assure proper maintenance. Importante yan, no? Yung tirahan ng pastor, ng mga manggagawa ng iglesia, ay dapat mini-maintain ng mabuti ng church. Okay? Next slide. Now that you know your responsibilities, you might ask yourself. Next slide. Why serve on the SPPRC? Okay? Those whom we support hold us up in life. I think this is the end of the lecture for tonight. Okay? Now, na-review yung trabaho ng pastor at paano ang gawain ng local pastor at kung paano ito ina-assess ng SPPRC. That ends the lecture. Take it away here.
Maraming salamat po, Dr. Homer. Okay, may nagtataas na po ng kamay agad, si Pastor Alvaro. Sige po, Pastor, go ahead, please.
Hello, Pastor. Magandang gabi po. Salamat po sa magandang lecture ninyo tungkol sa Pastor Parish Relation Committee. Pero ang tanong ko po ay, ito po, kung halimbawa po yung pastor, walang
Oo.
problema sa pastor, effective siya sa church, at pre-qualified sa isang church. Pero ang problema naman ay yung asawa ng pastor. Paano po ang gagawin ng SPPRC tungkol sa bagay na ito? Kasi parang hindi yata natalakay yung kung naging problema ang pamilya ng pastor.
Ay, magandang tanong. Pero ano yan ang pamilya ng pastor ay package ni pastor. Kaya pag ina-assess si pastor at yun ang nagiging dahilan ng sabi nila yung asawa ni pastor, okay lang yung pastor pero yung asawa niya, hindi. Alangan naman paghihiwalayan si pastor dun sa asawa niya. Siyempre, i-discuss yun kay pastor. No? Kung hindi kaya ni pastor yung asawa niya, siyempre, no, magiging dahilan na yon kung paglilipat sa kanya. No? Or, magkakaroon din ng counseling doon sa asawa ni pastor, bigyan ng mga ang pwede niyang gawin para sa kanilang ikabubuti. No? Alam ko, may mga asawa ng pastor na sila yung liability ni pastor.
Thank you po. May follow-up po ba kayo doon, Pastor Alvaro, or you're good?
Okay na po. Thank you, Pastor. Meron pa akong isang tanong kung pwede, Pastor.
Okay po, go ahead po.
Kasi iba yung sitwasyon namin dito sa abroad na kahit hindi na effective yung pastor o yung worker, hindi siya pwedeng palitan. Kasi walang papalit sa amin. Ano po kaya ang pwedeng maitulong ng SPPRC kung hindi na kami effective sa aming trabaho para kami ay magiging effective sa aming ginagawa?
Pwede gawin nyo ba yung parang yung team leadership, team pastoral? Maganda naman yun Yung bang dahil hindi naman kayo marami, wala namang ipapalit. Basta gawin nyo na lang team. Para bang grupo kayo. No? Tapos yung pag magaling isa ganito, yun ang gagawa. Yung magaling naman yung isa sa ganito, siyang gagawa. Maganda na yun, parang team na lang kayo. Mas mabuti na yan. Kaysa yung pagpipilitan nyo yung isang hindi parudol sa mag-preach, tapos siya pa rin nagpipreach, hindi maganda yun. Dapat isa na lang yung preacher, ganyan. Tapos magiging yung iba pang Bible study o kung saan siyang maling, pang pastoral care, gano'n. Maganda yung team pastoral, team pastorate din minsan.
Thank you, Pastor.
Yung doon sa asawa ng pastor, pwede niyong isumbong yan sa CSA, Clergy Spouse Association, para ma-advise-advisean ng mga kapwa clergy spouse, yung asawa ng pastor na yan.
Problema asawa pastor namin.
Ano po yan, Pastor Darlito? Sige po, go ahead po.
Nag-side comment lang po ako sa mga asawa ng pastor kasi mga problema.
Okay. Hindi naman po siguro lahat.
Opo, sorry po.
It's okay po. It's okay.
Sa Amerika, nagdi-divorce sa mga pastor.
I drank.
Alright, may mga nagtataas pa po ng kamay pero meron tayo dito sa chat muna, nababasahin ko. Kung merong ideal minimum years to stay sa appointment, meron din bang ideal maximum?
Oh. Alam ko maraming binibirong na pastor na tinituluhan na nila yung church, no? Pero ang recommendation actually is hindi dapat madalas magpalit ang pastor dahil may nabasa ako, hindi ko alam kung kay Rick Warren ko nabasa yung sinabi niya, hindi madaling magpalit ng tatay ng isang pamilya. Kaya sabi niya, hindi dapat ganun kadalas kasi na-affect din yung pastoral relationship ng pastor sa kongregasyon. No? So, sabi ko nga, sa tingin ko yung sa DS nga, 8 yata yung 8 years ang pinakamahaba. So, sa akin, yung 8 taon, parang unwritten na rin na rule na yun na yung pinakamahaba.
Of 10 verbs.
Kasi yung DS nga, hindi dapat lumampas sa 8.
Thank you po, Doc Homer.
Yeah.
Alright, sige po, DS Romel.
Good evening po, sir.
Yes.
As per my experience lang po,
Mm.
minsan kasi, minsan po kasi, nasisira din yung pastor dahil din sa asawa.
Oh, babalik tayo sa asawa.
Opo, minsan po merong mga pagkakataon po kasing ganun na hindi po kaya pwedeng ilipat yung asawa. Baka mas maganda pong ilipat ng bahay yung asawa.
Kung minsan kasi yung asawa ng pastor, mas pastor pa siya kaysa
Yun nga
asawa
po.
niya. Yun. Kaya yun siguro magkaroon ng magandang counseling, no? Meron mga seminar ng mga asawa ng pastor, dapat meron ganun, continuing education sa kanila.
Sir, dito sa conference namin, nag-exchange pulpit pa ang CSA.
Baka yung CSA siya pa taga-depensa.
Sir, very helpful po yung lecture niyo. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Si DS Edgar ng HIPAC.
Sige po, DS Edgar.
Hello, good evening po. May tanong po ako. Good evening po, Dr. Homer.
Yes.
Paano po kung sakaling ang PSPRC ang hindi nakakasunod sa dapat niyang gawin? Like for example, may pagkukulang na yung pastor pero dahil ang PSPRC nahihiya silang sitahin yung pastor, ano ang mangyayari kung gano'n ang mangyayari? Ibig sabihin, parang nahihiya sila o hindi nila nakayang sitahin yung pastor. Ano po ang mangyayari?
Kaya nga maganda po yung yung assessment ay personal muna, bigyan ng papel ang bawat membro para saka sila meet together na wala si pastor para magkaroon sila ng consensus, ganyan. Yung may privacy kaya hindi naman dire-diretso kay pastor, wag dapat sinisita si pastor ng diretsahan kung hindi dumadaan sa meeting ng SPPRC. So, nai-empower yung SPPRC dahil pag imi-meet na si pastor, hindi sila isa-isa, kundi buo sila pag kinausap si pastor. No? Kaya mas makakatulong yon na mag-agree muna sila kung anong sasabihin nila kay pastor. Kanya-kanyang assessment, personal muna, may papel na ibibigay sa kanila isa-isa, and then they will compare notes muna as a PSPRC committee, and then sa kanila kausapin si pastor. At doon, hindi na sila mahihiya kasi pinagkaisahan na nila yung sasabihin nila.
Sige po, thank you po.
Salamat po. Alright. Still, we have 2 na gusto pang magtanong. Mukhang umiinit po ang usapan. Doc Homer, bear with us. Medyo mag-extend tayo ng konti. So sabi po dito sa chat muna, tanong ko lang po, kung sino po bang pwedeng sabihan kung ang pastor ay may personal na concern like problema or probably stress or depressed si pastor, SPPRC committee lang po ba?
Basically, yan ang number one na trabaho actually ng PSPRC. Ang PSPRC ay hindi siya pulis, no? Siya talaga yung big brother. Sila yung big sisters, big brothers ni pastor. Sila talaga yung concerned sa ministry ni pastor. Kaya sila ang nakilagay dyan. Hindi sila yung mga critic. Kung kayo maglalagay ng mga PSP na mga critic, kasi mas makakaano yun, hindi makakatulong kay pastor. Yung talagang yung may concern kay pastor, dapat yan ang ilalagay sa PSPRC. Siya yan. Siyempre, alam natin lahat na pag hindi kakayanan ng PSPRC, yung DS talaga ang kailangan na kumausap sa pastor. Siya ang proper. Kasi siya ang bossing ng DS, no, nung pastor, yung DS, kung hindi kakayanin ng PSPRC sa DS i-refer.
Opo. At kapag hindi na po kaya po ni DS, pwede na nating escalate kay Bishop.
Oh, yeah. Totoo naman.
Alright. Thank you, Doc Homer. Okay. Sige po, Pastor Antonino Galanote.
Magandang gabi sa ating lahat. At most especially to Dr. Homer. Good evening, sir. Patungkol po doon sa long-term appointment. Napakaganda po kasi yung ating napakinggan ngayon. Yung long-term appointment, totoo po na kung ikaw ay magtagal sa isang destino, ay marami kang magawa, matutunan, ganon. Pero kung ang isang pastor ay matagal na sa isang destino at marami nang nagawa, for example, improvement ng ating iglesia, kung kailangan ng ibang iglesia yung pastor na nandun, hindi ba pwedeng ilipat? Kasi mayroon po tayong sinasabi doon, mayroong provision sa book of discipline patungkol po sa appointment making, yung itinerancy. Kung minsan, yung pastor na matagal na sa isang kapilya, destino, ay hindi na niya gustong magpalipat. Yun po sir, ano po ba yung dapat nating gawin o dapat gawin ng isang DS doon o obispo kung halimbawa si Pedro Pinduco ay magaling siyang pastor at matagal na sa isang destino, ay kailangan doon sa iba, hindi ba pwedeng ilipat kung maaari?
Actually, sa akin, honestly, mas maglilin ako kasi ang primary consideration talaga yung kongregasyon. Kung yung kongregasyon lumalago at bumubuti, if eight broke, sabi nila yon, kung hindi naman bali, huwag mong ayusin. Yun ang sinasabi nila. Kung wala namang problema, huwag mong ayusin. Yun lang sa akin. I'm actually more prone. Ang hirap yung malilipat ng andali-daling nalilipat, no? Pero kung makikita mo naman kung yung pangangailangan, yun yung pumapasok sa itinerary na sinasabi mo. May mga iglesia na mas nangangailangan na doon sa serbisyo na yung pastor, maybe i-discuss talaga very thoroughly yan bago ililipat kung siya ba talaga ang kailangan nung kabilang charge, no? So kaya nga sinabi ko, hindi naman siguro sa akin, no? Kagaya ng mga DS na nagtatagal dahil effective pa sila, pag nakarating sa 8 taon, medyo kakausapin na sila, no? Ganon din yung pastor. Sa akin, pag mga ganong 8 taon, ganyan, pwede nang ilipat. Pero, to me, if they're effective up to the 8 years, to me, okay yun.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Kasi yung ibang mga pastor, sasabihin yung kapwa pastor, ikaw na lang sumusweldo ng ganyang kalaki. Pwede bang matikman naman? Kahit sa akin, hindi magagandang ganong argumento. Paghandahin mo yung destino mo para tumaas ang sweldo mo. Here.
Okay, last po. Mukhang last question na po natin. Pastor DS Eduardo Del Rosario. Sige po.
Okay, good evening po sa ating lahat, lalo kay Dr. Homer. Ano lang po, Doktor, yung tanong ko lang po kung sa halimbawa ang pastor po ay kailan ba bang ang pastor natin ay kailangang palaging nakaupo sa SPRC kung mag-uusap sila, lalo na siya ang pag-uusapan. Kasi may mga pastor na gano'n na although na may rights sila, na sabi nila na kailangan malaman ko kung ano yung pinag-uusapan nyo kasi ako ang pastor nyo. Ngayon, siya yung didiscussing doon. Okay lang po ba na i-assert niya yung rights niya kahit siya ang pag-uusapan po? Thank you, Doctor.
Hindi po. Pag nag-usap, especially kung assessment, hindi ka dapat kasama. Hindi dapat kasama si pastor pag-assessment. Mag-usap-usap muna yung mga miyembro ng SPPRC, tapos magkaisa sila kung anong sasabihin nila kay pastor. Kasi may mga pastor na gusto na lang i-divide yung SPPRC. May kakampi ako, may hindi ako kakampi. So dapat yung SPPRC, dapat mag-usap-usap muna sila. Bago nila kausapin si pastor para hindi iba-iba ang sinasabi nila pagkaharap natin.
Okay. I thank you po, Doctor.
Dapat consensus. Yes, Kier. Tapos na tayo.
Okay, it's already 8:11. And just to inform everyone po, nag-share po ako sa ating pong live chat ngayon. Ito pong lecture ninyo na i-share na po sa live chat, pero as usual, isi-send ko ulit po sa inyo pong mga GC sa annual conferences and sa inyo pong mga DSS. Alright, and also the forms. May mga sinend po ako mga sample forms po dito na maaari nyo pong pagbasehan. Like yung PPRC recommendation form for church workers appointment. Meron din po tayong local church PPRC consultation form for pastors. Meron din pong local church workers performance evaluation and recommendation, and the DS church workers consultation form. So na-send ko po yan.
Thank you. Thank you, Kier.
Opo. If you need a personal copy, kung gusto po ninyo, hindi nyo ma-access dito, I can send that also sa inyo directly. Alright.
Ang next session natin ay tungkol sa finance. Finance Committee, Church Treasurer, and Financial Secretary.
Oh, okay. That's really great po. Okay. Sino pong magli-lead kaya sa ating closing prayer? Alright, sige. DS Eduardo Del Rosario, kayo pong nakikita ko po ngayon sa aking screen. Please lead us.